Robert, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Neville.
You're a very experienced man in international marketing. You are Mr. International Marketing, the king. Tell us what you've done in your life.
Well, I suppose one of the main things that I've done, I've worked for a series of companies in business who increasingly over the years had an international aspect to their business. Starting from the beginning, I worked for companies where the factories were in England at the end of the office, which was also in England. And then gradually the factories moved away, first to continental Europe, various countries there, and then later right across the world, including the Far East, the USA, and so on. So I've been involved in the marketing and general management of businesses in the textile and the clothing business, generally supplying retailers, mainly in the United Kingdom, but merchandise which was sourced from throughout the world.
Robert, now here's the question that all the students here are going to want to know the answer to. What does it take to do well in this particular unit?
The first thing that it takes to do well in this particular unit is to be organised and to be able to work well with other people. When I say that it requires organisation, it needs people to get together in a group of 4 or 5 to be able to study the subject matter of the assessment and to be ready to present by week 5, week 6, week 8 or week 10. Incidentally, if I don't get sufficient volunteers for the early presentation dates, then I may have to choose by ballot. So everybody needs to get working on that immediately. We need to have from students an analytical approach rather than a simple description of the topic. They need to be able to present to a group of their peers, a group of their colleagues, and they also need to be able to write up results in a report format. If that is done well, that will get them a good grade and a pass in that aspect of assessment. And then secondly, for the exam, they need to be able to take information given in a case study, to analyse it and to respond to questions in a 3-hour paper.
So you've got no room for passengers in this particular
No room
unit.
for passengers, no. Everybody has to contribute in a positive way. I very much enjoy this module because one of the things that we find with students from all around the world is that we get different perspectives from different students. Things that I hadn't thought of, certainly. I'm always extremely disappointed if a group of students doesn't tell me something that I didn't know. I like to learn new things, even at my very advanced years.
So we learn all the time.
We learn all the time.
Robert, can I ask you about textbooks? What must they buy?
Neville, I'm glad you asked about textbooks because I've got a copy here with me, and this is the copy which we want all students to buy. There probably are a few copies in the Learning Resource Centre, but they really shouldn't rely on that. It is important to have your own copy of the textbook. The details are given in the unit handbook, and that's what I strongly recommend.
Thank you. The first assessment, I notice it's a group presentation and an individual report. How does that work?
Okay, it works that obviously each person contributes to the formation of the report. Each person is expected to contribute on a pro rata basis. So one of the skills for the group is making sure that one person isn't talking for 10 minutes and everybody else has got a minute each. So that's the first thing. The report, which is subsequently written up, is on an individual basis. So people have access to the information for the presentation, but the report is prepared and submitted individually with each person's own views.
And clearly you don't want any weak links, you don't want anybody not doing their bit, do you?
No, because obviously that detracts from the overall effect of the presentation. If I can add another thing there, one of the things which can be most valuable is for groups to rehearse beforehand. I'm going to say that again, for groups to rehearse beforehand, because otherwise a number of things happen. The time runs out of control. That's the first thing that happens. And secondly, if people have not rehearsed, we find we have an awful lot of reading from the script. Somebody stands looking at a piece of paper with some notes on, and they read in a monotonous tone of voice, and I won't say sends everybody to sleep, but is extremely boring and is very ineffective as a presentation.
Robert, can you tell me how the groups are going to be formed, please?
Yes, the group's going to be formed now by people volunteering, self-selection, if you will. People will pick their own groups. They do have that option. The number in any one group will be 4 or 5 maximum. We are certainly not going to have individuals saying, I couldn't form a group, can I present on my own? The answer to that question is a resounding no.